We're going to talk about Venus today. This is the video about Venus being not visible in the sky and the implications of that for the delineation this fall when Venus is very strong in Libra, overseeing a cazimi there with the Sun and Mercury. How does Venus's cycles impact the nature of how we can lean into and utilize Venus here before eclipse season? Today's video is brought to you by a comment that happened from Shamika, I think, or Shameka J. During the last live stream, she asked, will Venus, or they asked, will Venus being invisible affect anything? And then Taco Fillings says right away, yeah, tell us about Venus invisible. And I wanted just to take an opportunity here to just note that I'm doing live streams now as a way to record my videos. I like being live because it means I'm not stopping and I can just flow, and it's better for me that way. The live streams are just a place for people. If you catch the live stream, you can come make comments, talk to people. I will definitely read those live stream comments later, even though I'm downloading the videos and uploading them later. But so just know that if you see me live, I'm recording a video, come talk to folks and ask questions. But this is the main theme of the video. Will Venus being invisible affect anything? And I want to show us here October 17th. Look at this. Here is not where we are now. This is about 11 days out, 9 days out, actually, from when I'm recording. You can see Venus is very close to the sun. It's not visible. You're not going to be able to see it outside because when the sun rises, it's too light for Venus to rise right after the sun for us to even see anything like that big, powerful Venus that we can often see. And this is during that stellium. And so what does it mean when you can't see a planet? Well, the general astrological principle is something called combustion. All right. And that's when a planet, there's different ways to define combustion. You can use just a degree range without even looking, but it's the technical, another definition might be that can you see it or not? If you can't, it's combust. And this is an article by Patricia Nava, published in Constellation News and then republished on astro.com. And in this article, I like it because she just summarizes here. However, the basic concept is still valid and is universally accepted. A planet whose light is hidden by the glare of the sun is feeble, deprived of influence and strength, for better or for worse. And this, as I think where some of the questions were coming from, it's like, hey, SJ, you're telling us that it's this awesome Venus and Libra, this cool astrology, but it's not visible. And if we apply this basic concept, that is it somehow feeble now? Is it a feeble Venus? Well, what I want to say about it is break it down a little bit more and explain a little bit why I'm excited. But first, what is Venus? And I'm going to go to astrologyzone.com. This is Susan Miller, the very popular astrologer Susan Miller. She writes about Venus. Venus rules your affections, your heart, love life, pleasures, including gifts. It's a feminine planet that rules beauty, fashion, adornment, and art. Adornment, art, fashion, beauty are some of my favorite significations for Venus, but of course it's love and relationships and all of those things. And so we might think on the one hand, are those areas of life going to be restricted because Venus is combust or not visible in this current moment? Basically, I want to quote Susan Miller here to get our minds around what we're talking about. We're talking about these themes, these parts of life. And against this notion of, are they blocked by the sun? Are they more feeble or are they strong because Venus is in Libra? And this is the ancient astrological principle I want to just bring your attention to. It's something called a chariot. So according to Antiochus of Athens, when a planet is in one of their chariots, that's a sign of their domicile or exaltation, or in one of their Egyptian terms. It can change malefics into a benefic. And if you look at exactly what Antiochus says here, here's the quote from the translation from Schmidt. He says, this is Antiochus translated by Schmidt, planets in their own chariots, when they should be found in their own house, exaltation, or boundary. So what I just said, they rejoice at these places, even if they are found under the beams of the sun. And so this is the major principle, and why I remain excited, and I still do, that Venus is in Libra. You can see it here. Look, Venus is in Libra in its chariot. Venus will be in its chariot in Libra, and then it's in Egyptian terms in Libra here in mid-October, like in the teens and up until it's cazimi. It has Egyptian terms, a wide section of Egyptian terms there. And so you'll have a double charioted Venus for some of that time. And so I want to just come here. I mean, what can we say with than the interpretive principle, because it's true, Venus isn't visible. And that is something that being in its chariot doesn't change. And so different astrologers have delineated this different ways. Some say that the invisible Venus, we're still dealing with subterfuge or things that are maybe less pronounced because Venus is under the beams, but still powerful. And so what could that be? Well, maybe it's an more interior art life or beauty that is not maybe out on the cameras. Maybe you're just doing beauty shows in your apartment or finding new clothes, and it's really an awesome Venusian moment, or a love that's maybe private, not ready to come out into the public. These are still powerful Venus moments, but that maybe are hidden. And so you can kind of combine both of these significations, and it doesn't mean Venus is blocked. It's just the nature of how it's expressed is a little bit more subdued. And so that's kind of the major idea here. I still think just lean into full Venus because I like that Antiochus passage. And okay, next I want to come to the next part of this video, which is going to be related to the Venus cycle. Anytime you start talking about Venus conjoining the sun, you are talking about this Venus cycle of inferior and superior conjunctions. And here's a beautiful graphic from Peter at AstroSeek, where you can see it's the pentagram, it's the 5. And this is how Venus makes conjunctions with the sun in these cycles of 5. And if you do it over time, it makes these beautiful pentagrams. You can see occult practitioners all throughout history have known this. The pentagram of Venus is what it's called, from eso.org. This is an article. They're just drawing that pentagram here. And it's every 7-8 years, Venus makes a new cycle in that same area of the sky. And then it just goes 7-8 years. The thing I want you to be thinking about also during this particular Venus Cazimi moment, we can come and analyze it against the backdrop of our lives. And this cycle began. So I want to go back to I'll just start here. So the last time Venus did a similar cycle anywhere near the same part of the sky that it has completed a cycle now was back in 2014, January. It had its inferior conjunction in Capricorn. So that's when Venus is retrograde. That's its inferior conjunction. And this is the Venus conjunction where astrologers tend to think about the rebirth. And I go with this model. Some will maybe say not the inferior, the superior conjunction is when you time the rebirth. But I like the inferior because before this conjunction with the sun, Venus was an evening star, and it was going to then go backwards and retrograde into the underworld. And so because it's evening implies night implies the night of life, right? The end phase of something, it's nighttime, and then it goes on the underworld, has the inferior conjunction, and is reborn. And then it's reborn as a morning star. So that's why I like to start this as the birth, because morning is often something that is implied as the new beginning of morning. So you go to 2014, this was the inferior conjunction in October 2014. So later that same year, Venus had its Cazimi in Scorpio, quite near where it's going to be this time. This time it's in Libra, the last degree of Libra. First time in almost 200 years that Venus will have a conjunction with the sun in Libra. But and so it was 2014 when you had the superior conjunction, and then Venus was a beautiful evening star into 2015, and then it's retrograde in Leo in 2015, where it has its next inferior conjunction, where it's then the birth of a new cycle. So those are the dates. Just think back, 2014 all year into 2015, that 18 months, that's resonant to where we are right now. This cycle started with the inferior conjunction of Venus back in January this year. Remember, Venus was stationed retrograde near Pluto. That's not shown in this chart. And then it traveled with Mars after it became a morning star. You can just think back to, so there's two ways to do this. There's looking at the cycle in all of 2014 and 2015, just to see if your Venusian themes, if there's any repetitions. Okay, that's the first thing I want you to do. Second, I want you to think about January 2022, the birth of a new Venus cycle. What kind of new beginnings have happened in your life around relationships and adornment and beauty and pleasure and art and creativity that now are coming to that fullness during this Cazimi, which happens here in October? You see, this is like the full moon of the Venus cycle. It's the full moon, Venus superior conjunction with the sun. So maybe there's a creative project or a relationship that's coming to a fullness here in October. And that's how you can kind of think about this beautiful astrology. Remember, Venus and Jupiter, there's no benefics. They're both touching the sun. The malefics do not harm Venus or Jupiter. It's these beautiful trines and sextiles. And so what is coming to a fullness in your Venus life and your love life right now here in October, as we get into this Cazimi moment late? This is actually 5 days before the Cazimi. I've got the wrong chart up here. The Cazimi is on the 22nd, right at the end of Libra. And that's a full moon for your Venus, arguably. And then we come to 2023. You can see here that Venus will be with the Sun in the inferior conjunction, and that will be the rebirth of a whole new Venus cycle. So this is just a way to kind of get our minds around some of the cycle dates, some of the dates. And I'm actually going to end the video here. That's the last thing I'm going to look at. But it's Venus, these two cycles, the 2014 into 2015, and now as a resonance, because it's in the same part of the zodiac. And then the January 2022 coming into fullness now, October 2022, and then we'll be waning into next year with some cool Venus moments until that retrograde in Leo. Venus will be in Pisces. Venus will meet Jupiter in Aries early next year, and then Venus will be, of course, be in Taurus. So that's a little bit about how to think about this. Use these cycles and dates to sort of contextualize. Maybe some of you are having epiphanies here as we lay out these dates, but the main thing is enjoy Venus and Libra. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome Venus and Libra. I'm going to a wedding in a couple of days. There's other weddings I've been hearing about. It just feels kind of good fall energy. Now there's crazy stuff in the world. Be covering that in a lot of other videos, but enjoy Venus. Talk to you really soon. And that is going to be it. Peace.